This video focuses on solving percent proportions. This is a natural extension to the lesson that we already reviewed on defining and solving proportions. In this case, we're going to take it a step further where we introduce percents into the discussion. Now, being that these are percent proportions, I want you to understand that they fit the mold of what a proportion is by definition, one ratio, in this case defined as what we'll refer to as is over of, equal to a second ratio, percent over 100. I just happen to use this box as a graphic organizer for solving our percent proportions using this is of percent 100 method. And being that these are proportions, then we can use the same skills that we have already established in our earlier discussions. We can first of all set up the percent proportion. That will be using this template down here. And by the way, there are other methods that we can use. This is just my preferred method. But being that it is a proportion, we can then use cross products to go ahead and cross multiply to create an equation to ultimately solve. So with that being said, let's quickly go through and introduce you to the template. Again, the template that I use is referred to as is over of. And if you want, you can say is equal to percent over 100. Now, some of you might be familiar with this in a slightly different way. Some teachers like to refer to this as part to whole. And in that case, the part is the equivalent of the is, and the whole is the equivalent of the of. And it is still equal to the percent over 100. So whether you're dealing with is of percent 100 or part whole percent 100, it serves the same purpose. So what I like about this template is it provides us a box, or I guess a graphic organizer with 4 boxes. And you notice the 100 by default will always be in the lower right. The percent will always be directly above it if we know that value. And the values for is and of will be filled in their respective boxes within the organizer as well. The is in the top left side, the of in the bottom left side. So it's just a matter of relying upon the problem to give us clues on where to pre-fill that information, so then we can move on to cross multiplying and solving the resulting equation. So that being said, let's take a look at the first problem. It says, in this case, we're going to solve for the is. So we're going to solve for this part. And what's important to know is that in this particular graphic organizer, we're going to have 3 of the 4 pieces known. And the 4th piece is going to be ultimately what we represent with a variable. So knowing that the is what's the unknown, I'm just going to use x. You can use any variable that you want. We're going to say, let's see, solving for is. It says find 6%. Now what I love here is that the percent will always be known because it has a percent sign. So we put that in the percent box. Find 6% of 82. Now with these problems in their relatively standard form, the word that is attached to the number or is in close proximity to the number will help identify where that number goes. So in this case where it says of 82, I can recognize that the 82 goes in the of box. Now all I need to do is my cross multiplying. So I'm going to do the 100 times x, and that's going to naturally give me 100x is equal to 82 times 6, which is 492. And now, just as we had with proportions, we have a nice, simple one-step equation. We can use the inverse operation of multiplying to solve. So we'll divide both sides by 100. And the value that is 6% of 82, in this case, will be 4.92. So that is the missing value to fill in what is, or finding 6% of 82. So as we move on with the 2 other examples, it's just a matter of repeating this process, but for either of the other 2 pieces that might be missing. In the first case, we solve for the is. In the next case, we're going to solve for the of. So we will start out by saying 26 is. So again, there's that word in close proximity to 26, so I know that's my is. 26 is 30%. I know my percent sign represents that number as my percent. 26 is 30% of what number? So my unknown this time is my of. So once again, I cross multiply. 30 times x naturally is 30x is equal to 26 times 100, 2600. And now we just simply have to divide both sides by 30. And we will get a value. It's a repeating decimal, so don't get worried about that. We'll get the of value in this case being 86.6 repeating. So the number that 26 is 30% of in this case is 86.6 repeating. So once again, you see it's just a matter of following a simple template. This is of percent 100 template, filling in the known values, putting a variable as a placeholder for the unknown value, and then cross multiplying and solving the resulting equation. So the last problem I think should be fairly straightforward. We'll use it one more time to solve for the last remaining piece that we could solve for, in this case the percent. So it says solve for the percent. This 36 is, so I know from the wording that's my is value of 36. What percent? There's my placeholder because there's no value with the percent sign of 64. One more time, we'll cross multiply. 64x is equal to 3600 in the case of the cross multiplying. We will solve this one-step equation by dividing both sides by 64. And we will get a value of 56.25. Now, this is the one thing we want to make sure of. We're solving for percent, so we need to label it. So in this case, our unknown is going to be 56.25%. So that is using what we already know with proportions in the context of percent proportions, using our template of is of percent 100 to fill in the known data and to solve for the unknown. And you notice with this template, I can solve for any of the three boxes that are left, not represented by a value. Once again, we know the 100 will always be represented in the lower right, so that allows us to have enough information so that we're left to either solve for the is, the of, or the percent. So I will always know two of these three values so that I can solve for the remaining of those three. So that is percent proportions. I will ask you to do the practice as prescribed, and we'll discuss more in class.